Welcome to the HFY Tales channel. Remember to like and subscribe if you like the story. Enjoy and take care.
The planet Vesperia lingered in the outskirts of a binary star system, its surface painted in hues of violet and emerald. Towering mountains of crystal glimmered under the light of two suns, casting prismatic shadows across the land. Strange flora, massive and otherworldly, swayed gently in the breeze, emitting soft bioluminescent glows that lit up the dusk. This was a world of beauty and danger, where the lines between friend and foe blurred with the rustling of leaves. In this alien landscape, human life barely thrived. The air was dense, rich with the sense of unknown blooms, and bioluminescent creatures flitted in the darkness like stars fallen to Earth. Yet for Thomas Reed, an Earth-born scientist, Vesperia was a challenge he couldn't resist. With an insatiable curiosity driving him, he felt drawn to inhabit this extraordinary place. Little did he know that this expedition would lead him to an unexpected encounter. Thomas stood at the edge of a cliff, gazing at the winding river below, his heart racing at the prospect of discovery. He was in his late 20s, with tousled brown hair and a lean frame honed from years in the field. His initial excitement, however, dimmed as the reality of his isolation struck him. He was light years away from home, with no way to communicate with Earth. He was here to study the flora and fauna, to uncover secrets held by the ecosystem, but a deeper yearning stirred within him, to connect with something beyond human understanding. Perhaps that's what brought him to gaze out over the alien horizon, seeking answers to questions he hadn't yet voiced. As twilight draped the landscape, Thomas heard a rustling sound in the thickets below. A primal instinct urged him to hide, but curiosity overruled it. He crept closer, peering through the foliage as the source of the noise came into view. Suddenly she emerged. The alien girl, towering and magnificent, appeared as if she were sculpted from the very essence of the planet itself. With skin shimmering like the twilight sky and muscle that rippled beneath her surface, she was a sight to behold, a true embodiment of strength. Her hair flowed like liquid darkness, cascading down her broad shoulders, and her expressive eyes glowed like golden stars. "Human," she roared, her voice echoing like thunder across the valley. "What are you doing on my land?" Thomas felt a jolt of fear mixed with an undeniable fascination. Was she a guardian of this world? Unconsciously, he took a step back, but the movement caught her attention. The alien girl advanced, each step deliberate and powerful, each step shaking the ground beneath him. "I'll crush you, human," she exclaimed, not in a tone of malice, but more as a warning, tinged with curiosity. Thomas gulped, his heart racing. I'm just exploring," he stammered, raising his hands defensively. He felt small and insignificant in front of her muscular frame, but deep within, a thrill coursed through him. He was captivated. As days turned into weeks, Thomas found himself adapting to the complexities of Vesperia. Yet the specter of the alien girl lingered in his mind, possible encounters haunting his dreams. He learned that she was called Kayla, the protector of the realm. The rumors shared by local inhabitants painted her as a fierce and untamable force of nature. In the interest of establishing communication, Thomas took great care in understanding her language, studying the nuances of vocalizations and body language. They often found themselves near one another, though most of their exchanges were marked by frustration and misunderstandings. An incident arose one sunny morning when Thomas attempted to show Kayla a simple Earth greeting, extending his hand. She recoiled, eyes wide with fear and aggression, mistaking his gesture as a threat. The sheer disparity between their cultures was staggering, yet the pull between them only grew stronger. To foster their connection and break the tension, Thomas proposed a traditional sport to be held in a nearby clearing, a contest involving skill and strength, where both could gain mutual respect. The sport, known as Vakaras, was a hybrid of agility and strategy, pushing participants to their limits. Kayla's eyes shone with excitement, a sound of laughter escaping her lips. "You think you can keep up with me?" The day of the competition arrived, and Thomas felt his heart thump wildly in his chest. Spectators gathered around, a mix of curious locals watching in anticipation. Kayla stood opposite him, a vision of might with her powerful frame. He was determined to prove himself, but as he looked into her fierce golden eyes, he felt the weight of their differences. With a burst of signal, the contest began. Together, they dashed through an obstacle course that required strength and agility. Kayla's athleticism was remarkable. She overpowered natural barriers that impeded Thomas, who stumbled often but pressed forward, fueled by determination and an underlying urge to impress. The climax of the competition had them pulling against one another for victory. The sheer force of Kayla's strength felt like a force of nature surging against him. The ground shook beneath their feet, and Thomas strained to keep up. Their opponents were fierce, and the battle required unity. As the final moments approached, Thomas found himself entranced, not just by their surroundings, but by the specter of Kayla, a being that seemed to straddle power and vulnerability. Their breaths mingled as they confronted the final obstacle together, a towering stone wall that seemed insurmountable. With a powerful leap, Kayla soared above it while Thomas grappled at its base, unable to secure a foothold. But in a moment of unity, she reached down, clasping his arm and hoisting him up, her strength spilling out like sunlight breaking through clouds. Together they crossed the finish line, exhilarated, flush with triumph. After the exhilarating experience of the Vakara's competition, Thomas and Kayla became unlikely allies, their earlier friction slowly giving way to a burgeoning friendship. With shared laughter echoing in the air, they trained together each day, exploring the vast alien landscapes and honing their skills. One evening, while they were practicing their moves near a shimmering lake, a rustling in the nearby bushes interrupted their moment. Before they could react, a massive creature, resembling a cross between a predatory cat and a dinosaur, burst forth. Its iridescent scales glittered under the fading sunlight, and its eyes were locked onto them, hunger evident. Kayla's instincts kicked in, and before Thomas could comprehend the threat, she shifted into a defensive stance. "Get back!" she shouted, her voice commanding and confident. Thomas hesitated but did as he was told, scrambling behind a rock for shelter. He watched in awe as Kayla faced the beast. Her muscles tensed, the golden hue in her eyes flaring with intensity. The alien girl was a force to be reckoned with, and he could see her determination as she prepared for a fight. With a powerful roar, Kayla lunged at the creature. The two grappled fiercely. She was not just a protector, but a warrior at heart. Thomas's heart raced, not with fear, but with an exhilarating recognition of her strengths. His fascination deepened, and he felt compelled to help. Using a large stone, Thomas joined the fray, throwing it at the creature's side as it tried to wrestle Kayla to the ground. The distraction worked, drawing the beast's attention away from Kayla. She seized the opportunity to gain leverage, twisting the creature's head in an impressive display of strength. After what felt like an eternity, the creature lay defeated, and Kayla stood over it, breathing heavily but triumphant. Shocked but relieved, Thomas emerged, eyes wide. That was incredible. Glimmers of exhaustion danced in Kayla's golden eyes. "We make a good team," she said with a grin, her chest heaving. In that moment, another layer of their relationship peeled away. They were no longer just a human and an alien. They became allies forged in a shared struggle. Sitting together by the edge of the lake that night, the atmosphere transformed from tense to relaxed. Surrounded by twinkling stars, they began to share their stories. Kayla conveyed her life growing up among her people, the challenges she faced as a seemingly strong, yet simultaneously vulnerable protector. "Everyone expects me to be unyielding," she admitted, "but I have fears too. I fear failure, of letting my people down." In turn, Thomas shared his experiences on Earth, depicting the loneliness and the weight of expectations placed upon him as a scientist. The connection deepened further, transcending their initial fears and misconceptions about each other. One evening, a nearby campfire flickered as they recounted their tales. Suddenly, shadows darted among the trees, and a loud rustling broke the tranquility. Startled, Thomas barely had time to react as a group of marauding aliens, hostile and armed, stormed through the clearing, ready to attack. Kayla positioned herself between Thomas and the intruders, a protective barrier of strength and resolve. They clashed with her, but instead of fear overcoming him, a surge of determination erupted within Thomas. He couldn't let her fight alone. With courage bolstered by their unbreakable bond, Thomas found an improvised weapon, a fallen branch, and joined her in the fray. Together, their combined strength stunned the attackers, but it was Kayla's might that ultimately set them apart. You could see she didn't just fight for herself. She fought for those deemed vulnerable. As the dust settled, the invaders retreated, realizing they had underestimated the bond of the unlikely allies. Breathing heavily, Thomas turned to Kayla. "You saved me," he said, realization dawning. "No, we saved each other," she remarked thoughtfully, her eyes reflecting the firelight. In their shared courage, a new understanding blossomed between them. After their fierce confrontation with the marauders, Thomas and Kayla's bond grew exponentially. They spent more time together, exploring the hidden wonders of Vesperia and learning more about each other's worlds. This newfound camaraderie ignited an unspoken tension that simmered in the air, palpable and intoxicating. One night, as they sat atop a hill overlooking a sprawling valley, the bioluminescent flora glowed, like stars on the ground. Thomas marveled at the beauty of the landscape, but it was Kayla who reclaimed his attention. The alien girl sat cross-legged, her immense frame radiating both grace and strength. "You've seen my power, Thomas," she said softly, her voice almost a whisper against the vastness of night. "But do you truly understand me?" "I want to understand," he replied, the earnestness in his voice surprising even him. Kayla's gaze locked onto his, and for a moment, time seemed to stand still. "I am more than a protector. I carry the weight of my people's expectations. If I fail, they won't forgive me." Thomas could hear the vulnerability in her words. He had seen her fight, witnessed her strength, but this raw honesty left him breathless. "You've shown me how strong you are," he assured her, "but it's okay to let down your guard sometimes." Tension filled the air between them, swirling like the gentle breeze. Thomas felt an overwhelming urge to close the distance. He shifted slightly closer, his heart racing with the prospect of crossing an uncharted line. What would happen if he reached out? Would she pull away or lean in? Just then, a sudden movement in the shadows interrupted their moment. Both turned to find a massive beast lurking, eyes gleaming with hunger. Kayla sprang into action, but this time, Thomas felt a surge of bravery flood his veins. "I can help," he shouted, grabbing a branch instinctively. Without hesitation, they fought side by side, a seamless dance of strength and strategy. There was something exhilarating about facing danger together. It solidified their connection in ways words couldn't express. Eventually, they overpowered the creature, and as it fell, breathing heavily, Thomas turned to Kayla, his eyes wide with adrenaline. "Did we just—" "Together," she interrupted, laughter escaping her lips. In that shared triumph, an unspoken bond forged a deeper intimacy. That night, emotions ran high. As the fire crackled, Thomas found himself enchanted, noticing every detail, the way Kayla's hair caught the firelight, her expressive features illuminated with a glow that radiated beyond her physical presence. "Kayla," he began, his voice trembling with urgency. I feel there's something more between us, something deeper." She studied him, a mixture of surprise and contemplation crossing her face. "You are human, and I am not. The rules governing our worlds, they are barriers." "Barriers don't always have to define us," he said, pushing forward. "If we accept that we're different, maybe we can carve out something new." Kayla's breath hitched slightly as their eyes locked. In that moment, all barriers faded. He leaned closer, feeling an almost magnetic pull, and dared to reach out. Their fingers brushed against each other, igniting a fire that surged through him. "How do we even begin?" she asked, vulnerability softening her gaze. "You show me." Thomas breathed softly, and before he knew it, they were wrapped in each other's arms, fingers intertwining, the world around them melting away. In that embrace, they yielded to a connection that transcended their differences, a commitment forming in the moonlit silence. Thomas felt her warmth envelop him. It felt as if their very essence was merging. Each heartbeat echoed with promise, anticipation, and a profound desire to bridge their cultures. What followed was a delicate dance of exploration, where desire intertwined with respect, and boundaries melted away. Their first kiss spoke volumes, soft yet urgent, tentative yet desperate. It was a mingling of worlds, a celebration of contrasts, and a testament to their growing bond. As the night deepened, Thomas marveled at the complexities of his feelings for Kayla. This was not merely attraction. It was an acceptance of their differences, a union that defied the confines of their backgrounds. They clung to each other as the stars blanketed the sky, realizing that love, however unconventional, had no boundaries. Their worlds may not have aligned perfectly, but in that moment, they created a space wholly their own. In the days that followed their passionate night, Thomas and Kayla stood on the precipice of an extraordinary connection. Their bond was now more than just comradeship. It was filled with yearning and uncharted territory. Yet the realities of their worlds loomed over them, threatening to pull them away from what they had begun to forge. Despite the lingering joy of their newfound intimacy, Thomas sensed tensions building in the atmosphere of Vesperia. The sense of danger was palpable, whispers of unrest traveling through the alien communities. He knew it was likely to be connected to the marauders they had faced, emboldened by their previous encounter with Kayla, and determined to pursue the human who had joined forces with her. One evening, as they stood together atop a ridge overlooking Kayla's village, an unsettling sight unfolded before them. A group of marauders approached the settlement, their numbers vastly outnumbering any defensive forces. Thomas's pulse quickened. "Kayla, we have to warn your people," he shouted urgently. She turned to him, her expression a mixture of resolve and vulnerability, understanding the weight of his words. "We will face them together," she asserted. The fire in her eyes ignited something within him, a fierce determination. Together, they galloped down the ridge, making their way toward the impending battle. As they approached the village, chaos erupted. The sounds of clashing metal and distressed cries echoed through the air. Kayla's heart raced. She could not let fear overcome her. She had to protect her people. "Stay close," she instructed Thomas, her voice authoritative. They wove through the commotion, dodging attacks, and as they reached the center of the fray, Kayla's presence commanded attention. With a fierce battle cry, she launched herself into the fray. Thomas watched in awe, a mixture of fear and admiration surging through him. He saw the strength in her sinewy frame, her agility as she fought with unmatched ferocity. It was clear she wasn't just a protector. She was a force of nature. "Thomas," Kayla shouted amidst the chaos, her voice cutting through the noise. "We need to distract them. Rally the villagers." Gathering his courage, Thomas sprinted through the chaos, barking orders and urging the villagers to come together. "Form a defense. We can push them back." Under his encouragement, the villagers rallied, each joining together in a newfound connection born from desperation and unity. As Thomas maneuvered through the tumult, he spotted an opening. A group of marauders attempting to flank Kayla. "Kayla!" he shouted, eyes widening in alarm. With a surge of adrenaline, he darted toward her, fueled by the desire to protect her. In that moment, a marauder grabbed hold of him, trying to pull him down. Panic set in as he struggled. "Let me go," he yelled, twisting beneath the weight of his captor. Just then, Kayla sprung into action, her powerful frame colliding with the marauder, sending him reeling away from Thomas. "I told you to stay close," she snapped, her eyes fierce yet filled with concern. Together, they fought harder than ever, a seamless movement of strength and strategy, passionately focused on their need to protect one another. They were a remarkable sight to behold, a balance of power and agility, the strength of two different worlds coming together to forge an unbreakable bond. With the tide turning, Thomas felt an exhilarating mix of fear and determination pushing him to the forefront. "We can win this," he shouted. "Together." Kayla turned to him, her eyes reflecting the spirit of their connection. "Together," she echoed, as the battle continued to swirl around them. And so they fought, side by side, hearts pounding as they navigated the chaos that engulfed them. With a final, decisive maneuver, Kayla executed a powerful strike that sent the remaining marauders fleeing in terror. Victory surged through them, but the battle had taken a toll. Panting, Thomas and Kayla turned to face each other, breaths mingling in the aftermath of the chaos. There was no time to celebrate. They could sense the lingering tensions among the villagers, unspoken fears, and new bonds of solidarity building rapidly in the aftermath. Turning to the villagers, Thomas looked around and raised a fist. We did this together. We can build something stronger. We can protect our worlds." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Kayla approached him, her expression softening. "You fought for me. You stood with me." "I would do it again and again," he replied, heart swelling with a mixture of pride and affection. But as the winds of victory brushed against them, unspeakable emotions lay unaddressed between them. In the wake of camaraderie and adrenaline, the reality of their differences hung heavy in the air. "Thomas," Kayla began, her voice steady yet laced with uncertainty, "what does this mean for us?" "Whatever happens, Kayla, we face it together," Thomas replied, his words filled with conviction. They were two beings who had carved their paths across vast divides, and he intended to see where that path led, no matter how daunting it looked. In the silence that followed, their hands found each other, fingers intertwining. As the world around them faded into the background, they held onto each other through the uncertainty, embracing the unknown that the future promised. In the aftermath of the battle, the village of Kayla stood battered but resolute. The fiery spirits of the resilient villagers burned bright as they began to heal their wounds, both physical and emotional. Thomas felt an overwhelming sense of pride swell within him. Together, they had secured a victory against overwhelming odds. But beneath that pride lay an uncertainty, an awareness that the battle had only been a temporary respite from the challenges ahead. With the sun setting on the horizon, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, the villagers gathered to celebrate their triumph. There was laughter, shared stories, and renewed promises of protection. As Kayla stood amidst her people, her presence was magnetic. She exuded a strength that drew everyone's respect, yet Thomas could see the flicker of exhaustion behind her fierce golden eyes. Keenly aware of the strain on her heart, Thomas approached her, his own feelings swirling within him. "You did amazing today," he said, his voice warm with admiration. "And you were magnificent as well," Kayla replied, a faint smile gracing her face. "Your bravery brought us all together." But there was something unspoken between them, a growing tension that hinted at deeper emotions that needed to surface. "Kayla," he began, his heart pounding in his chest. "What happens now? Where do we go from here?" She looked out across the gathered crowd, her expression contemplative. "This victory is merely a moment in time. We have much to do. My people need to rebuild, and we must remain vigilant. The marauders will return. Whatever it takes, I will stay and help," he declared, a fierce determination taking root within him. As the festivities continued around them, Kayla turned to face him, the laughter of her people fading into background noise. "But you are human, Thomas. Your world is so far away. You don't belong here." "I belong wherever you are," he replied earnestly, stepping closer. The vulnerability in her gaze broke his heart. A fierce warrior who yearned for strength, but feared the fragility of her own heart. "We have something special, Kayla. Something worth fighting for. We can find a way." For a moment, time hung suspended between them. The weight of their disparate worlds pressed heavily upon them. Yet here in this moment, they were together, bound not just by circumstance, but by choice. Kayla's voice trembled slightly as she spoke. "To be with you means risking everything. My people, your people want stability and strength. They need you to be both, the warrior and the nurturer." Thomas replied, "You can be both. We can be together as we forge a path forward." As the last traces of daylight faded, Kayla hesitated, emotions swirling through her like a tempest. "If we do this, if we decide to stand side by side, we cannot look back. There will be sacrifices." Thomas reached out and held her hand, entwining their fingers. "I am ready. If our love can bridge the gap between our worlds, then let's create a future that honors both." Moved by his words, Kayla nodded. They didn't know what tomorrow would hold, nor did they know what sacrifices they would face. But in that moment, they grasped the promise of a shared journey ahead. As the stars began to twinkle in the limitless sky, the villagers cheered once more, raising their voices in gratitude. The atmosphere shifted, filled with raw hope and resilience. Kayla's people looked to her for reassurance, and with a steady heartbeat and a firm grip on Thomas's hand, she took a deep breath. She would lead her people into a new era, one where love and unity could emerge victorious. With a firm voice, Kayla shared with her people, "Today, we faced adversity and won. Together, we will rebuild. Together, we will protect one another, not just as aliens of this world, but as allies with a shared purpose." Thomas gazed at Kayla with admiration, feeling his heart swell with pride in her leadership. It was far more than physical strength that moved him. It was her spirit of resilience, her determination to rise above, and her willingness to embrace love in all its forms. As the gathered villagers celebrated their collective strength, Thomas knew there would be obstacles ahead, but with Kayla by his side, united in purpose and respect, he felt a fierce excitement coursing through him. Perhaps love was the greatest force of all, one capable of reshaping destinies, carving unity from division. With a smile, Thomas leaned closer to Kayla and whispered, "No matter what happens next, I'm here." In that embrace, they stood on the threshold of a new beginning, two hearts entwined amidst the complexities of their worlds. As they looked towards a future unknown, they found solace in the fact that together, they would face whatever came their way, stronger as one.